Mate, welcome to Both Sides podcast.
Thanks for having me, gents.
Really appreciate you coming and making the effort. So today is our third podcast. Welcome Josh Hive from Hive Property. It's going to be a phenomenal story today. But mate, because we've got a bit of a relationship, I want to just hit you with a hard question.
Okay.
How does somebody become $1 million agent?
Yep.
And make millions of dollars, do really well, but also have a physique, a physique like yours?
All right, you hit me with the big ones first. You got to have a plan.
You got to
have a plan. We say in the office all the time, you can't hit a target you can't see. And I'm a big believer in knowing exactly where you want to go, but who you're going to be. The big mistake a lot of people make in business is focusing on the where and the what.
Yep.
Right?
Love this already.
Yep. It's the where and the what. They don't focus on the who. They don't focus on who they're going to be. I want to be rich. I want to write millions of dollars. I want 10 houses. I want the Urus. I want all this shit. But they don't focus on the who. Who is that individual and what does that individual look like? So for me, and I've done this all my life, it's about the what and the where will always take care of themselves if I take care of the who. So what does that individual look like? What time does he wake up? Right? So if I know that I want to be $1 million agent, what is that individual's habits? What are they eating? How are they communicating with the market? How are they holding themselves in a conversation? How do they dress? How do they go about their day? You know, it's about, if you build the individual, the life will take care of itself. In essence, it's that simple. So I think for me, my journey over the course of real estate and life in general, it's just always having a clear understanding about who I want to be, and the where I want to go always takes care of itself.
Where did that come from?
I think just perspective. I think maybe humble beginnings. We touched on this last time, had a bit of a laugh, but I think, and it doesn't have to be humble beginnings, but I think perspective. I think if you've got a really good bird's eye macro perspective on things, you can be very micro in the details, right? So I think for me, and we joked, it was another podcast I did, we joked about me sleeping on a mattress, you know, for years, because we'd already financially made it years and years and years ago. But it was about, I guess, having that perspective that that's not what really mattered. What mattered was the individual that was getting up out of that mattress every day, and what they were going to go do in a day is what mattered, because all the material stuff was taking care of itself. You know, the trajectory was taking care of itself. All I was worrying about was the type of individual I was focusing on being day to day. And that perspective and that mindset, that just compounds over time, right? I think you put a post up the other day about buying the beamer. I think you were standing on the roof. Don't go out and buy the shit to look successful first. Be successful first and buy the shit later. Yep. You know, and I think it's all perspective driven, right? At the end of the day. And don't lose that perspective the further down the line you get. So when you get to those what's and where's in life, don't lose perspective of the who, because the what's and the where's won't matter. You can have all, you know, we all deal with people that have a lot, and you see these guys with tens and tens of millions rattling around in a big house, because they're not really taking care of the who. You know, they got to where they want to be, but their perspective can be shit. So you can have all the stuff in the world, but if your perspective's shit, you're not really successful. You know, the stuff's just the cream on top.
Damn, what a start. So along your journey developing the who and the person, what's been some of the lessons you've learned along the way?
I think big.
Think big.
Think big. Think bigger.
How big are we thinking?
100x.
Bigger than your biceps?
Bigger than... Think big. Don't think small. Like, you've got to get up every day, right? Like, you've got to get up every day, so don't get up and be 60% of yourself. Don't make excuses, you know. You know, excuses are the thief of success, period. So I think just having really clear vision about who I want to be and where I want to go, and just being consistent with that.
As some of you may know, my sleep hasn't been the best. Now, over the past few weeks, I've actually fixed a lot of it. Last night was good, but 2 nights prior to that, not so good.
Yep.
So you're saying you take these every day?
Most days, yeah.
Most days?
Every day, every second day. They're natural. But it's about just building the who. Like, I can't be who I need to be if I'm not sleeping. Yeah. Like, I've got 3 kids under 5, right? Like, I'm already in the trenches. So whatever I can do naturally to help myself, put myself in the best position to get up at 5 o'clock and go out and be that 100% version of myself, I'm going to do it. Like, health hacks are everything, right? If you don't have your health, you've got jack shit. So, and I remember last time we caught up, you said that, you know, you were just, flat out not sleeping. So I thought, I ordered a couple, so I grabbed you some as well.
With sleep, did you go through a period of struggling to sleep, and how did you go about fixing it? Because obviously we wouldn't have this thing, right?
The period's probably called James, William and Olivia. That's probably the period of not sleeping, if I could put it down to it. And look, when you start a business, of course, You know, like you go from being, we touched on this last time, but you go from being, you know, an agent to a business owner, you are dealing and problem solving problems that you've never solved before and you've never had to face before. And when you're the business owner or just an agent or a buyer's agent, whatever, you're accountable to so many different people, right? So naturally, it is going to impact your sleep. It is going to impact your health. It's going to impact your nutrition. It's going to impact your mentality and all that sort of stuff. So look, that is a, you know, it's a simple hack to try to help, but it's not going to fix it. I think it's not going to fix the root cause of it. If you're not sleeping, there's going to be a root cause. It's just to alleviate, you know, a bit of pain so you can get up and be a little bit more productive the next day.
So coming down to these health hacks,
Yep.
sleep's important,
Yep.
working out is clearly important.
Yep.
How have you structured your day to make
Yep.
sure that you're focusing on yourself
Yep.
first and making sure that you do become that best version of yourself every day and you're showing up?
Yep.
How have you structured that day to allow that to happen?
Starting earlier, like if I've got 3 kids, so you know if gym was at 6 o'clock before I had kids, it's now I'm up at 4:30. It's now at 5 o'clock. It's just about finding the time and again just being really efficient with that time, you know, and making sure that you're consistent and persistent with that time. Like I know if I don't get that hour in the morning, it throws my whole day off. You know, I need that hour to set myself up for the day, you know, because the success of your day dictates the success of your morning dictates the success of your day, right? So for me, it's just simple structures, being really disciplined. And that's the other part about success, you know, building the person that you want to be. You have to be persistent and consistent with the smaller details over time. You know, if you set yourself, you know, a structure in terms of a day that you know is optimal for you to perform at your best, you need to stick to it. You know, it's all well and good writing out the ideal diary in your calendar, but if you don't stick to it, you're not going to achieve it, right? So for me, it's just starting earlier. You know, setting my day up, gym, you know, for an hour in the morning, and then I'm in the office really early. I'm in the office from like 7:30.
First calls going out at 7:30?
Emails, admin, you know, listing prep and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, being an agent and the business owner, there's a lot to cover, but I like to clear my head, clear the deck before I hit the phones so that I've just got a clear runway, you know. And then for me, I don't do any appointments before 1 o'clock, ever. So I'll do my appointments from 1 p.m. onwards, and I'm usually home by 5, 6 o'clock.
Really?
Have dinner with the kids. Now, not earlier, but yeah, I've got a pretty balanced life.
So, and from the outside looking in, you've set up this to a point where, like, a lot of people will see the luxury homes.
Yep.
That connects with Marty
Yep.
Fox
Yep.
and Simon Cohen, and
Yep.
they're seeing all the flash.
Yep.
But with the origin story, let's peel it back.
Yep.
When did you get into real estate?
Yep.
How was your first few years?
Yep.
And how did you navigate that? What was it like?
Yeah, so I guess into real estate 18 to 21, out of school, and I was just too immature. Like really, I think my planning at that stage, although it is consistent with where I am now, I wasn't doing the actions back then to get me here. Right, I was around the wrong people. I was around the wrong circles. I wasn't putting myself in the right places to give myself the best chance to get to where I want to be earlier, and that was my fault. So full accountability. But 18, 21, got out of it, did a trade for mid-20s, and then back into it 10 years ago or 9 years ago.
So you got out and then jumped back in.
Yeah, jumped out back in. And you don't need to, like, it's 2024. You can have 3 careers in your lifestyle. You know, if you're not happy, change. And that's the other thing. So I think it's important to be really clear. And again, it goes back to really knowing who you are and being clear about where you want to be. And what you're doing isn't where you want to be and the people are not the right people to serve that vision, then change, move. You know?
How important is that change, do you think, on your trajectory?
It's everything. Ecosystem is everything, you know. But again, you can have the best ecosystem, the wrong mentality, and you're still not going to get anywhere, and vice versa, right? So it's a culmination of all of that, and that's when I go, you know, going back to your earlier point about have a plan, be really, really, really clear about what it's going to be, because success is by design. Like the people that you just rattled off, then they didn't get to where they are by just waking up in the morning and working hard. Everything that you see, you know, where we're sitting now, looking over the harbour. Everybody that is successful by design, and they're successful by a plan. You know, and it's being consistent and persistent around that plan to get to that level of success.
How important do you think it is along that way and along your journey to get to that end destination to say no to certain opportunities, no to certain things when there is a lot coming to you? And how do you know which one's the right one to pick?
Sometimes you don't. You just don't. But that's the whole point, right? So you've got to learn. You've got to say yes to some shit ones to learn that they're not the good ones. True. And that's just life.
That's
and
just
that's
life,
just,
isn't it? Yeah. True.
And that's just time. You know, you're not going to get it right every time, but you need to get the reps in. You know, we spoke about last time about just getting the reps in, because every time that you go through a process, whether it be positive or negative, it shortens your time between thought and action for the next one.
Yeah.
But it also dials in your perception and perspective of, you know, new opportunities that come in and make you really acute and accurate in the way that you assess new things that come into your life. So,
sounds like you're pretty structured on the planning process, Josh.
Yeah.
Do you have a way you plan? Is it weekly?
Sunday.
Is it Sunday?
Every Sunday. Yeah. So like I'll refresh my plans every Sunday. I'll refresh my goals every Sunday, but I do quarterly, annually, 6 monthly. But if I've got it written down and I'm off course and I need to course correct, I'll do it Sunday night. Yeah, seriously. Like if I had a really good idea on a Monday and then by Friday I realised it was shit, then I just cross it off the list, you know. Yeah. And that again goes back to being just really on top of your plan, you know. And you need to self-audit and you need to self-course correct as well all the time. Just because you've got a really good idea in January doesn't mean it's a good idea in December. You know, so have the big goals, have the, you know, the quarterly, the 6 month, the 12-month plan, have the 2 year, the 3 year, the 5 year plan. That's all well and good. But like Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan to get punched in the face, like realistically. So I think it's important to have the big ones dialed in, focusing on who that individual needs to be to get to those goals. Yeah. And just refining it as you go, you know, tightening it up, you know, just getting really sharp in the way that you operate and sharp in the way that you live. Because at the end of the day, like going back to it, in essence, like it is all by design. So if you're not constantly tweaking the engine, you know, assessing yourself and auditing yourself and sort of, you know, measuring your performance, you're just floating out in the wilderness, to be fair.
We've got a viewer question. They've asked, how did you crack into the Canberra luxury market?
So we cracked into, it was very strategic, again, by design. So we had Hive, the plan initially, because Canberra's only got, I think it's 477,000 people. So just sub 500,000, we're a tenth of the size of Sydney and Melbourne, right? So, you know, the luxury market in Canberra only makes up about 5% of it, right? So what we knew in Canberra, just given the way that the market operates, that we needed trust equity and brand equity in the market for an extended period of time, because it's essentially just a big country town. There's not a lot of young money there, and all of the Canberra wealth is old money, right? So you need to build that trust. You can't just rock up with a flash brand and it's going to do well. They need to see you out in the marketplace, and you need user results. So for us, it was in the Canberra marketplace. We started at a lower price point, a little bit further out. Didn't base our office straight away in where we are. Got 4 or 5 years under our belt, then actually purchased a building in where we are, renovated it into a luxury space to reflect the stock that we're selling, and then I bought in the area that I'm transacting in the same suburb as my office, and then went outwards from there and built the team out from there. So it was really strategic in that regard, because it meant that we had years worth of stature in the market. If anyone needed to research us, we've got a really big established team. We weren't just these fresh kids, you know, because, you know, we're all sort of 30 to 40. Our competitors are all sort of 55, 65 and been trading real estate for 30 years. And one of my main competitors, actually, he sold my wife Samantha's mum a house 34 years ago. And then we bought a house off him. Sam bought a house off him last week. So he's, the guys that we're, you know, up against have been in it that long, you know, as opposed to us. So
it's very much like a double bay loan or short up.
Yeah, and look,
a lot of the old money where a lot of agents been
100%.
The parents.
Yeah, and you've got to know your market. So you can't know your business if you don't know your market. You need to know who you're pitching to. You need to know how that market operates, and you need to make sure that, you know, if it's a brand that you're trying to position in there, is actually going to get absorbed in there. So for us, it was always a long play, again, by design. It wasn't a one and done, in and out, because we're here for the long haul. So, and it served us really well. Like, we've been in there for 6 months. I think we cracked an $8 million sale, which has never been done.
Nice.
Wow. And for Canberra, that's big. I think it's the second highest sale price in there.
What's the highest sale price for Canberra?
9.
Oh,
yeah,
close.
And we've got stock coming up. We're just talking to Monica upstairs.
Should buy for you.
Yeah. She might buy it. But we've got some stock coming to market that's going to double that Canberra's never seen before. So we're constantly looking to elevate and push the market. Is that why Simon Cohen was down? He's just looking to buy some good real estate down there, I think. But I think, you know, so for us as a business, there's 6 month, 12 month, 18 month, 2 year, 5 year plans for the business. Again, but that was worked out 3 years ago. So everything that's playing out now is exactly where we thought it would be, because we were just consistent and persistent with those 1%ers.
So you left landscaping to come back to real estate. When did you really start dialing in that process?
30. So probably 27 to 30 was just, you know, just getting the deal flow going, just getting the mechanics of real estate in itself and the lifestyle around it, because it's a lifestyle job, right? But for me, early on too, we've got a development arm that we also serve. So we do developments, but we pitch them to the markets that we actually operate in. And again, going back to that plan, you know, sort of 9 years ago, it was about, I wanted to, you know, go really deep into project marketing. We do sort of 200, 300, 400 sort of size, you know, apartment complexes, because I wanted to learn everything inside out so that I could have that skill set as an agent, but also then, you know, multiply that against Hive and actually, you know, do it ourselves. So again, you know, and the business itself, and Kev, like going back to your earlier point, you know, we really wanted to position the business as an advisory firm, not just an agency. You know, you don't want to be order takers in there. We really wanted to provide value, you know. So if you come into Hive, you want to talk about doing the biggest developments in Canberra, no problem. If you want to sell luxury real estate, no problem. If you want to talk about the best way to set up a, you know, trust fund for investments, no problem, you know. And we really wanted to be that one-stop shop. And it's got a curb, you know, real estate's got a bit of a reputation, and we sort of wanted to curb that. And I think in Canberra, because it's been the same operators in our space for so long, there was always a big opportunity for us to come in and just do things a little differently, you know, just shake the tree a bit. And it's been really good. It's been received really well. And now, you know, we've onboarded some, you know, really good agents from other, you know, really reputable businesses, because they've seen that compounding over time, and they want to be a part of that and a part of that culture, and upskill themselves. You know, like most of the agents, all of the agents that have come to us from other agencies have doubled or tripled their GCI in 12 months, because it's such a multifaceted skill set in terms of an office, and everybody within the office benefits from that. And then if we all benefit from that, the market benefits from that, you know.
Were you born in Canberra?
Born and raised.
Born and raised.
Yeah.
What would you say to, for example, let's say, I actually got a friend that moved to Canberra not too long ago, and they're in real estate too, but what would you be now that you're saying it's a lot of old money, people have probably got relationships, you know, they went to school with these people 30 years ago. What would your advice be to agents that are moving into markets like Canberra, or for example, Oliver Lavers did it from Canberra to Sydney, where they're going into marketplaces where there's old money, there's long-standing relationships. How do you break that with no relationships?
Knock on doors. Seriously. Door knock. I laugh. It's, you know, in any market, it doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter. You know, Ryan Serhant's the best example. He was doing, you know, rental properties, and there was an audition for a TV show, and he just rocked up and told everyone he's the best fucking real estate on the planet, and he got it because he was believable. You know, confidence is key too. But I think, look, to be honest, I think if you're trying to break into any market, is just going directly to it. Like I joke with the staff all the time, you know, and agents ring me all the time for advice in Canberra. I can't get listings, the market's really hard. I said, when you drive to work, what's on the side of the roads? It's houses everywhere. Go and knock them. The streets are littered with a commodity that you sell. Just get in front of them. And I think you've got to be, you know, a lot of agents are scared of a no. Like, just because it's a, you know, call it a $10 million house as opposed to a $1 million house, just extra zeros. You know, the people are all the same. And I think you've got to remove that, you know, that fear factor of the luxury market's big and scary. They're just bigger houses and bigger zeros. And I think if you just simplify it a lot more, if you're a younger agent and maybe you don't have the runs on the board, it can remove that fear factor and turn into confidence. You know, and I think it's just about the way that you look at that section of the market is going to dictate how you approach that market. If you're fearful and, you know, sort of sheepish and knocking on the door and there's no confidence there, you need to get into that big money energy like Ryan Serhant. And you're probably just on energy. And I know in my younger years, you know, energy beat experience most of the time, because I was just hungry. I was out door knocking till 9 o'clock at night, and they're like, mate, you're crazy. Like, if you're going to work this hard, you know, well, I want a guy that's going to work this hard on my listings. And my energy in the early years beat most of the experienced guys in my patch, and I took market share quickly because I just outworked everybody. And it's the same. So if it's the luxury market, just double down on the energy. And like I said earlier, just think bigger.
So, if, for example, for an agent, we can go knock on a $30 million door and try to get business. What would be your advice, for example, buyers agents in the industry that want to get a $50, $60, $70 million buyer from one of Couture? How do you find that buyer?
Ask Monica. I think, and look, I'd be going to, it's business to business. I'd be going to the CEOs. You know, we're the best performing sectors in the market. Is it medical? Is it entertainment? Is it wherever? I'd be looking at the sectors that make the money, then buy the real estate. Who are the owners of those businesses that are looking to transact, and where do they live? Where do they move? I'd be going to the people that are, you know, operating and managing the wealth to then go and distribute the wealth. I'd be focusing on them. I wouldn't be going houses backwards. I'd be going to businesses first.
Find the people with the money.
Well, it's 10% of the, you know, it's the world. 10% of the world makes 90% of the, the wealth or owns the wealth. So I'd go to that. I'd go to look at the best performing sectors, look at all the analytics. We've all got access to core logic and the best analytics and the best data. Put together a case study like you go on a court and start hitting those guys, hit the phones, like you're born salespeople. And that's where the phones become handy. So I'd make a list of your top 50 CEOs, hit the phones.
If you were to start a buyer's agency yourself, would you go for investment, high turnover, or would you look to do something like you just said there?
Well, it depends. It depends, I guess. I don't know, ask Kev. I think I'd do both. Again, I think for me, I always look at ecosystems. So any business should be a total ecosystem, not just a one-trick pony. Yeah. And I think if you're a buyer's agent, I think it's important to have that skill set and that thought set around, look, if it's investment, I know the best way to structure it. I know the best performing, trends in Australia. I know where to put your money. I know where it's going to perform the best over, a compound of 10 years. You need to be able to have that conversation. Then you need to be able to sit down with a coffee with Mr. CEO and look him dead in the eye and tell him, I know the best place to buy your primary residence because you're going to get the best cap growth over a certain amount of time. And you need to be able to bounce from those between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, And I think the best agents, buyers agents, can dance between the different atmospheres really, really quickly. So for me, business, in essence, and the most successful businesses are an ecosystem. Like, look at Mark Zuckerberg. He just buys up, he owns everything. Every touch point that we've got that's a social media touch point, he owns. And he controls it. He controls all the touch points, all the influx, all the data, controls all the marketing, and that's it on a massive macro level. But any business that's really successful is generally, the success of a business is generally dictated by the success of the ecosystem. And that's why, again, going back to if you're getting into real estate or you want to be, to be an agent or a buyer's agent early, is get really good peripherals around who you want to learn from. Where are you going to learn these skills and what really matters. For me, it was projects and development, because I knew that over time is what I was going to compound and leverage, in business and personally. So I really focused on that 50% of the time.
Do you... you talk about ecosystem now, you've got a big grasp on it. Do you recommend for someone like myself to focus on building an ecosystem from a business owner, or should I be... So I'll give you a scenario. I'm looking to expand the brand nationwide. Do you think it's important for me to be the top buyer's agent, like...
In the universe
before scaling nationwide, or do you think I can scale nationwide before that?
Talk to people that are doing it and ask them.
Yeah.
To find the path travelled, ask the ones coming back. So I do that. But I think, and were you going to say do it personally and professionally? In terms of scale, were you about to say that about your ecosystem? Yeah. Do both. Yeah. Do it in parallel always. Because you can always do both. It just depends on what your goal is, What's more important? So becoming the best buyer's agent nationally or scaling? What's the most important to you now?
Probably scaling. Yeah. I would prefer that, but both. I don't know.
What do you know? What do you need to scale? Have you worked out? What's
I've got conversations in there.
Yeah. So again, these are all different conversations, because what's your liquidity position? What's your infrastructure position? Who's running expansion? Because there's only finite time in a day. And you need to really manage that, because like we said last time, the busier you get, you run out of time. So you don't want to get so successful and create all these time windows for yourself and then run out of them. Because that's what we all do. We all fall in that trap. So I think just having that key plan around the scalability and making it high touch. Because if you can scale at pace, like Marty's a really good example, Marty's a really good example of scaling at pace, because he's high touch. He's got the right people in the right places, and he's on everything, but he's not everything, So he can't, and it's the same with Simon Cohen, he can't be expanding at the pace that he is if he is to be the BDM, to be the guy taking, So I think having the core structure and the core plan around the scalability is key, and then you just executing on it. And what does that time factor look like? Because a lot of people, they really underestimate what's involved in that. Because if you think your phone's busy now, as an agent, and you're trying to get to the number one in your sector, trying to scale a business just locally is hard, but trying to scale it, and Jack Henderson's another really good example. He's a great operator. Is just getting the key parts and just seeing what bits work for you, and then execute, and then just assess from there is what I do.
That actually leads into my question with scalability. The really exciting thing with Daniel's business is you can scale it quite quick, because there's a lot of, for example, Jack Henderson, Daniel, they get a lot of business via Zooms. So they don't actually have to go out and see clients.
Amazing.
Which obviously means a lot of scalability, but then I tend to think that if you're going to deal with a high-end client that's buying $5-10 million, you probably want to go out in there and service them and see them in person before you sign them up. How would you be able to scale business like that, like big listings where you actually have to go out and see clients out in person, face to face, and be able to still run a high visibility business? Because buyers agents aren't like us. They don't sell in one area, they'll buy them everywhere. How would you be able to handle that?
Set the precedents first. Ask them, is it important that we meet face to face?
That's good.
Get it out of the way. Like, is it important that we meet face to face, or do you just want me to get to work? And I just set that up because that's going to create then time windows.
Do you mind if I take a note?
So I'd ask them first, and that just be your leading question with everybody. And say you've got 100 new clients, but 80 of them don't care that you have to fly, because you got to remember too, you're there because they're busy, right? So if you're there because they're busy, they've probably got finite time to sit down for a coffee. You could bang out the context of the meeting over a Zoom or a phone call just as easy as you flying there for a coffee. And it's probably more of a pain in the ass for them to go and meet you, to just tell you what they're going to tell you over the phone anyway. And that's, again, for listings and business and how we scale the sales side of things, I lead in with that stuff all the time first. What's the most important? I get that stuff out of the way so it can dictate what my runway is with that particular client. Because if I'm just working for the sake of working and meeting these certain clients, and some clients need a little bit of extra love, but mate, most of them are time poor. In that asset class and that style of business, they're already time poor. That's why you have a job.
Well said. I really like that.
Have
you had many mentors along your journey that guide you?
I haven't, and I have not. Probably Marty's probably the only one.
Do you feel that's held you back?
Both. I'd say. I think it sharpened the spear. It sharpened the spear because it forced me to just think on my feet and think for myself and figure it out. And everything that I'm telling you now is just tried and proven. And I think that's probably where, if I was to give myself some younger advice, I would have reached out. And maybe just not knowing who to reach out to. Maybe, social media wasn't really as prevalent in terms of just being able to easily connect. And you're sort of just looking around in your pond, like, okay, who's in Canberra? Who can I call? And there wasn't really anyone doing what we were doing. That's why I reached out to Marty, because there wasn't really anyone that was sort of on the trajectory I was trying to go. That's why I reached out to Marty. And then he was there in the early years for a couple of years, and that just sort of, materialised into, a really good friendship and a bond. So there's no sort of mentorship there now. But probably him is probably Marty, and Marty's mum was a lot of support in the early years as well.
Linda the goat.
Yeah, Linda's the goat. But outside of that, no. Like, and just my wife putting up with me. That's probably it. But I would go back and make a better effort at doing that.
So with the plans you got coming up, Josh, understanding that you're big on who you need to be to get there, who do you need to be moving forward to get these new goals you've set? Just what needs to change in your life? You know what?
Being present, being present with the kids. Because me now was not me 6 years ago. I've got 3 kids under 5. So I'm a different person, So my goals are around how much time can I get back to be with my kids, So when I say I'm home, that's why I'm up so early, so I can be home, do the bottle, be a dad. I don't want to be that guy that was the number one whatever and didn't go to a soccer game, didn't go to, that's not me. So I worked really, really hard in the early years before I got to this position with the family, so that, in terms of wealth and all that sort of stuff, that was already done, so that I can design my life now to still have the same things and still scale the business, and I'm not going to be impacted at all, and still be a dad, and be a good husband, and have that really good balance, because for me, that's the most important thing.
Why do you think that's important to you?
In our line of work, you see the opposite, right?
All the time. And
I think I look at that and I just don't want to be that. We look into the windows of lives every day and we get to learn from that. And I'd say, and I never really had that growing up, like we sort of started to touch on that in the last potty, but I want to be there, and whatever I learn, like in, mentorship now, it's on the other end. I mentor a lot of people. So even though I never had it, I'm mentoring a lot of people. A lot of people reach out to me, and I'm really fortunate that they want to do that, and I'll give it back. Because I know how important it is, and I want to pass that down to my kids, and I want to leave, people talk about leaving legacy and all that sort of stuff. I want to leave impact, I think you get to a certain point in business, for me, my goal's pivoting to, philanthropy and giving back, being in a certain financial position in the next 5 to 10 years where it all just goes back. Like I heard a quote the other day, like money's only good when you can start giving it away. And it was like, it's so true. But you talk to all these, all these clients that we talk to that are uber successful. They've got all the shit, they've got all the toys. But they go, it just doesn't matter, you know, but you've got to get there to realise it. You know, when you never had it and you're scraping together money for rent, you're eating 2-minute noodles, of course it matters. But you need to get there to realise where you are on that spectrum. And I think for me, I'm at a place where I'm super wholesome, super dialed in on my family. Growth of the business and everything's just organic now because it's so systemised. It's just going to compound and grow by me just doing what I'm doing, you know, and that, God knows where that'll end up, you know. And my kids get to come along for the ride, which is the fun bit.
How old are you now?
37.
37.
Yeah.
When was the tipping point for you when you went, you know what, I'm going to take life seriously?
Balls to the wall?
Yeah.
27.
27.
Yeah.
Now, when you did that, what were the major changes in your life? Was it no alcohol?
Yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
no going out on weekends?
Yeah.
What exactly?
All
Talk us through the process, because there's going to be a lot of young guys and girls listening to this that, you know, teetering on the edge of listening to this podcast. Like, oh, do I jump in? Do I jump out? What? And talk to us what you actually changed.
So I was hanging around the wrong people, like a lot of successful people, you know, and, you know, so many successful people I know are delinquents at heart. That's what makes them good. They're all the class clowns, you know. But I think I got rid of the bad people. I got rid of alcohol, you know. They were probably the two main ones early on, but it was just a change of mindset. I woke up one day and went, this is it. I burnt the ships. I'm all in, 100%. I'm going to the moon. And it was, I'm dead clear, and you're either on the bus or under it. I'm going, you know, and that was it. And those simple changes, you know, they're only sort of a 1% course correct, but they have a 99% impact on your life, right? Because getting the wrong people out of your life can maybe be the tipping point that you need. Like if you're listening to this and you're still going out on a Saturday, you're working really hard, but you're blowing all your dough out in the clubs and you're waking up Monday feeling shit till Wednesday, you're not going to make it. You're just not. So if you're listening, stop doing it because you're not going to make it. But I think it goes back to the who. Having a really clear understanding about what it takes, and people really underestimate what it takes to be quote unquote successful. You know, they really do. So, and you know, these other, you know, and I look at agents and the productivity side of things too. Like I look at agents writing $300,000 or $400,000 that are running at a $300,000 or $400,000 GCI productivity pace, but they're running at $1 million busy pace because they're just, you know, they're not efficient with their time. You know, people just really need to get clarity around what they're doing in a day, who they're trying to be, who they need around them, who they don't need around them, what's going into their system. Getting rid of alcohol is probably one of the best things you're ever going to do in your life. It is poison, you know. And I drink. I'm saying that, but I drink. You know, I drink probably 2 or 3 times a year, and every time I do it, I just think, why the fuck did I do that? You know, and I usually do it just because I'm stressed. So, you know, and again, that's not, you know, that's not optimal as well. But I think, yeah, just having that mindset of burning the ship, success is 100%. You know, it is 100%. If you are dead clear about your goal, like you look at the best business people, the best sports people, whatever, they are just dead clear and it's non-negotiable, right? There is not a plan B. Like if you're listening to this and you are serious about changing your life, there can't be a plan B or C. You can't fall back on mum and dad. Put yourself in a position where you have to fight your way out of it, you know? That is the best. Put yourself in a corner and fight your way out because that is the only way that you're going to figure it out. And then you do that enough times, again, you get the reps in and then it just gets easier and easier.
And you start building confidence.
And then you build confidence and then it's just easy to say no to people. It's just easy to say no to a drink. It's just easy to, you know, and then you're more confident to then go knock the $10 million door or, you know, reach out to the mentor that you may be a bit intimidated to reach out to because you feel like you've earned it. You know, you feel like you're ready for that. But deep down, if you're not doing the non-negotiables or doing the things that you need to do to put yourself in that position, we don't really deserve it because you're not taking yourself seriously. And if you don't take yourself seriously, people are not going to take you seriously.
How do you stop the relapses from happening? So, for example, like I see a lot of, like I'm dealing with a lot of young guys I'm trying to coach at the moment, and they'll do really well. Like they'll stop going out, they won't have the drink. I call them on Saturday night and say, hey, what are you doing? They're in the pub. I'm like, what the hell? So, like, they'll change for a little bit. And even myself, like, I've gone through periods where I'd take it seriously and then I'd have a few drinks and then I'd relapse. Now, 4 months, no alcohol now, which I'm feeling good. But how do I not relapse? How do those young guys say, no, I'm not going to go out, even though they've done it for a month, not going out?
Mate, it's normal. Like, you're human. And I think you're probably going to. The reality of it is you're probably going to. Just don't hate yourself for a month after. Don't let it derail. Don't let a bad day ruin a month, right? Don't get into your head. If you drink, don't go, poor me. Oh, shit, it happened. But you know what? I just did 4 months sober. I drank, but I'm not going to do that again. It's the quicker you can the quicker you can course correct, and the quicker you get back on the horse and get back into that mindset, the better. That's the actual skill, because you are going to fuck up. And guys, if you're listening, you are going to fuck up. No one's perfect, right? So even all the fitness models and all the influencers, anybody that you're looking and idolizing, everyone's got their shit. And just understand that everyone is human. Everyone fucks up, but it's okay to fuck up if you just get back on the horse, and just don't make it a regular thing. And if it's gone from drinking, every week to every month, that's great. Then get it to every quarter, get it to every 6, and it's baby steps, And context is important. Like if you haven't drank for 6 months and you go out and you have a blowout at your mum's 40th, whatever, it's not a big deal. Like there are bigger problems. Just get back on the horse and get on with it.
This is a good topic because it can be often overlooked with success, is that I feel from my experience with life, success can be a band-aid for us when we have experiences that are quite challenging.
Totally.
What have been your tools that you use when you are in a storm? For example, something's happened in your personal life, someone's passed away, you've had a fight with your partner, like when the real shit of life occurs, how do you navigate those storms?
Perspective. I just think, how many kids are sitting in the cancer ward at a children's hospital? I'm not having a bad day, and that's it. You need to get real about it, because at the end of the day, like your problem, if you're driving around in your BMW and you're stressed because you've missed a listing or you've missed a client or a sign up or whatever, and that's not a real problem. Like if you've got food at home, your kids are healthy, life's good, sun's out, you don't have problems. And I think that's what it is. I quickly, if I'm going through any shit, I can be annoyed for a minute. Like if I lose a listing, I don't even check who got it. I move on within 20 seconds. I've always done that, because the reality of it is, you need to assess your problems for what they are. You need to assess your stress for what it is. There's good stress and bad stress, right? And a lot of the time, people spend 95% of the time worrying about shit that only happens 5% of the time. Right? So if it's only happening 5% of the time, you're just wasting all this time with unnecessary stress, like it happened already, because you've already stressed about it. So you've still got the stress factor out of it, and it never happened, And people, I think too, again, just getting really macro and really bird's eye about your life, just quickly do an audit. Like if I'm, depending on whatever the situation is, you're fighting with your missus, you're working too late, whatever it is, then course correct. Fuck, babe. Like, I haven't been home. I'm going to take Thursday, Friday off. We're going to the coast. Get someone to watch the kids, whatever. Course correct quickly. Identify it quickly. Don't put your head in the sand, because it doesn't serve anybody, right? And the only person that's going to do that is yourself, And everybody's tolerance for stress is different, but everybody can have the same perspective,
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. When you were at a younger point, when you were a lot younger, maybe you didn't handle that stress well.
Yeah.
How did you deal with it back then? What were the ramifications? And when did you start to change your perspective?
Alcohol, like everybody else. Stress, drink.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do when you're 20? And again too, if you don't have the right ecosystem around you, you've got no one telling you this stuff, right? So younger years, just drink, head in the sand, poor me, victim mentality like everybody else. But it's just immaturity, And I think that comes with reps, it comes with life, it comes through going through the problems to realise that they're really not problems, And you've got to get punched in the face. It's good. Bring it on. Like if I get punched in the face 100 times today, great, because I'm going to be better tomorrow. But that's perspective, and that's going back to my comment about 27, 10 years ago at 27, changing my perspective. Before I'd be fearful for the punch in the face. Now bring it on, and it's about how you turn it. What are you doing with that energy? Are you turning your negative energy into positive energy? And again, is it a problem or is it a real problem?
You've got the best mindset. I have a question for you. Does anything keep you up at night at all?
No.
Nothing.
No, my kids. That's it. Olivia at the moment, but no, I don't. I still like a baby. Like stress wise, like business wise, never. I'm out like a light. Because they're not real problems. They'll be there tomorrow. And they did in the early years. And again, it comes back to this perspective, guys. Like, and if you're listening to this and you've just got into real estate and you're stressing because you haven't got this deal, whatever, just calm the fuck down. It's not the end of the world. They're going to be there in the morning, And I think now, mate, I sleep amazing when my kids let me. Yeah, which is very rare.
There are a few people that I'm speaking to at the moment, coaching through. I spoke about this with Michael Crims on the last podcast, but I think there's going to be quite a few people in the same boat that are listening to this where There's going to be some money issues.
Yep.
At the moment, there's quite a few people that can't get these deals across the line. The listings aren't as abundant. Well, the listings are abundant, but the stock's been smashed.
Yep.
And there's quite a few people that I've seen that haven't sold anything for 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yep.
And they're starting to stress the debit's building.
Yep.
What's your advice to people in those positions? Because with a rattled mindset.
Yep. So whose fault is it if they're not selling? Market's them up, but really, whose fault is it? Is it overpriced? What have you told the vendor? You know, do you need to sit down with the vendor and adjust the price? You know, are these guys that aren't selling it, are they sticking their head in the sand and shitting themselves because they haven't spoken to the vendor and just being honest and saying, hey, look, we're 80 grand overpriced, X, Y, and Z around the corners, they've all just sold, we're sitting heavy. If we want to get it sold, we've got to change the price. A lot of these guys that aren't selling the stock are generally putting their head in the sand and not having the hard conversations with the vendors when they should. It should be the first thing you do in the morning. You know, it's like eating the frog, you know. Yep. And stock is hard, market's hard. It's hard for everybody. But I think our sales have gone up in a transitional market. Canberra's gone down 10%. Our sales have gone up 10%. So I think just having an understanding about where you are in that process, sometimes it is the market, sometimes it is the agent. Usually it's a bit of both, right? And I'd say, again, for those agents that are just stressing out, audit yourself today. Sit down, pen and paper, line down the middle of the paper. Whose fault is it? What do I need to do?
I did this, and one of the guys was like, the owners won't change their mind. I tried every day. I've told them every day it's not going to get it. I've given them the offers, and it just doesn't work.
Okay.
What do you say to that?
Easy. So that's the easiest question to answer. We are in an information economy. So you can get data and analytics from so many different sources, sit down with them and physically show them the black and white facts. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, right? But no one's entitled to their own facts. If you can sit down, right, and I'll, if you want, I can generate these and show you. I can send these to you, right? And you can send them to the guys.
Send them to my guys right now.
Yeah. So, but like I can show you how to do these reports. But basically, you know, if for a vendor to make an informed decision, they need facts, right? They don't give a shit about your opinion and what the market's doing about what Bob made an offer. They don't give a fuck. But prove to them, you know, if they're not listening, it's because they're not looking at the right information. And I think too, in an information economy, you the guys and girls that are listening that have just got into real estate, you know, over the last couple of years, all of this is at your fingertips. It is so easy to transact at any level. You know, like for us to go in and do an $8 million deal in Canberra is unheard of. Because we know how to use the analytics, we know how to use the data, we know how to structure that. We did this.
We did,
in Queensland,
and we bought it.
And you bought it. Million, you know, we just quickly did that on my phone.
Yeah.
You know, and I sent you one that I would use. Yeah. So, and it works.
And it worked.
Yes.
It did. We bought 3.2 million.
Can you use that line? Everyone has an opinion.
So everyone has an opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Yep.
But no one's entitled to their own facts. And it just is what it is. So I think, so look, and that's the way that, you know, that's the way that the best operators operate. Because again, if you want to climb up the GCI ladder and climb up the asset ladder, the higher you go up that asset ladder, you know, the more educated they are, the more time poor they are. They just want to get to the point quick, and they want to see it in front of them. Like if you put that to any vendor and you say, here are your options A, B, C, and D. These are the facts. They're irrefutable. What do you want to do? Because if we sit on the market, the data is telling us that we're going to be sitting on the market for another 6 weeks. And I'd go and then pull the performance of the suburb. Your suburb's going down 7.2%. So let's draw a line down the paper. And where on that line do you want to sell? Because if you sit on the market for another 6 weeks, you're going to sell about there. And if we take off 7.6% on your current sale price, you're actually going to be down X figure. If you can make it clear and digestible for any market to understand where they're sitting in the market, reflective of the analytics, because it's a data-driven market. Emotion just isn't enough to buy property anymore, you know, because the buyers are so well educated. The buyers are just as educated as everybody in this room, that we're all looking at the same data. So if you treat your vendor like an idiot and you don't put the data in front of them for them to make a decision, it's kind of insulting, you know, and it's actually making your job harder and their stress levels higher, you know. And I think that's where the crux of Hive's success is being able to navigate that really efficiently.
It was really creative because when we were doing the deal in Queensland, we were buying a property in Drill when I had that negotiation. If they didn't buy, they were going to be renting for a period of time. And Josh was like, okay, this is what you do. Find out the average annual growth rate for the suburb. Make sure you factor that in. If they don't buy it, like trajectory, like all this. We built this like full spreadsheet of like.
Is that Aaron?
Nah, this was another client.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting like
Position them.
Yeah,
position them, because I think when everybody's looking at the same information, everybody can make an informed decision on all sides. So it's a good way for the buyer to get what they want and for the seller to get what they want, and to get there quicker. Like efficiency is everything in this game, right? And time kills all deals. So for the guys that you're coaching, the longer they sit on the market, it's hurting their sale price, obviously. But again, a lot of those guys need to learn how to have those conversations with those sellers, because they're hard conversations to have. You're telling someone they're losing money on their primary asset. They might only be selling 1 or 2 houses in a year. And if you're a young 20-something-year-old and you're talking to a 50-year-old who's selling their home, it's hard. But you've just got to get better at that.
All these guys, they're very good at listing. They can do a deal, but letting owners know the bad news, I feel like that's where a lot of people in this industry struggle with a bit. Well, they can give it. One of the people that do it, I feel like when they do it, they're losing the listing. They're putting them offside, and especially if it's a market where, for example, it's not great. You're telling them the bad news. They're sitting on the market. They're refusing to actually drop price, and then they're going to another agent. Where I've been able to, thankfully, retain a lot of the clients that have come off the market, and they'll still use me. How do you actually deliver bad news and not actually lose the client?
It's about the trust equity that you have with that client, and how has your performance been up until that point, right? So did you, from when you listed the property, were you just as upfront? You know what I mean? With all this information. Because for me, again, going with that lead-up question that we're talking about expansion, versus being the number one, it's leading in with those key critical questions and saying, this is the preface of the meeting. This is how I operate. This is what to expect. And acknowledging the pitfalls that they're probably going to encounter. And a lot of guys that just get the listing, it's all really exciting, we get the listing agreement. But hey, look, most of the properties that transact in this suburb, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, they're generally under offer between weeks 2 and 4. If they're not, it's because of price. Here's the data to prove it.
Wow.
That's it. So if we don't have an offer between weeks 2 and 4, we're going to have a price conversation. And you make that aware to the sellers at that point. So you say, look, I don't dictate the market, but I'm going to give you the strategy to get you the best price point within that time period. If we don't, by week 4, I'm going to put something in our calendar here. I'm going to send you an invite to have a discussion around the performance of the price. Hopefully we've got it under offer by then, but if we don't, there's going to be a scheduled meeting. I'm going to bring coffee. I'm going to have a chat about it then, so they know it's coming. Because you, as the expert in your field, should know how that micro market performs. And if you don't, you're not an expert. You're just not. So if you can't sit there and crunch the performance of wherever you're transacting down and make it digestible for your client, you're not really an expert. You're just telling them what they want to hear to get the business. So I think to alleviate a lot of that and for retention is just setting everybody's expectations up very, very clearly from the start, so that when they do get a conversation around price, it's not a slap in the face. Because the last thing anybody wants when their expectations are so high and we're going to sell and we're going to be able to finally move up north and get the sun and all that shit, and then you ring them and you say, oh, look, we've got to drop the price 150 grand. They're thinking, what the fuck, man? You know what I mean? So I think just being really clear about the plan from the start, and the more that you do it, in terms of making that your set structure, if you're an agent that's just starting out and getting really good at your trajectory and your timeline with the vendor, you never have a bad conversation. I don't ever have a bad or a hard conversation with my clients, ever. And I mean that hand on heart. On my kids, I do not. There's some curly ones in there because maybe the price wasn't what they want, but it's never, oh shit, I've got to ring the vendors and let them know that I was 200 grand off the price. It just never happens, because we're all on the same page. We're all organised from the start. And I'd rather lose the business if we can't get on the same page from day one, because then we just don't align. I'm not going to put my energy into someone that just doesn't quite understand the process and the timeline, because we're just setting everybody up to fail from there. And you shouldn't really have hard conversations. The only hard thing you should be doing in this business is the negotiating. The rest of it is pretty automated.
Just process.
It's just process,
I guess one piece of advice that was given to me, which I reflect back on a lot with vendor management, is trust should always be earned, not just given.
Totally.
How do you display to a client, a potential vendor, that you can be trusted before they've actually used you? Transparency.
Call my vendors. Here's 5 names of everyone. See, just there's 5 properties. There's the numbers. Call the vendors. End of story. Because I think just transparency, being upfront, being honest, and making sure that, you know, if they've got any concerns, that you're just upfront from the start.
So again, we've got Aaron here. Aaron works at Matter Real Estate with us. He's close to transitioning over. Right, he's got a question for you.
Shoot.
Well,
based on, I guess, market knowledge as a whole.
Yeah.
When it comes down to knowing your market, do you more so mean just the stats around how far the market's traveling? Do you mean more so the insight of the type of buyers that you're having in your market? Or so just literally
all of it. You need to know your market analytically how it performs in all asset classes, you know, from 500 to a mil to 2 to 3, because generally, depending on the asset class, the buy movement's going to be different. So you need to understand the metric of the buyer so you can align it with the metric of the market, right? So, and again, if you're transacting in there, like, is there a patch that you guys operate in?
Is Northmead,
like, is it just
Northmead and Carlingford?
So those two areas, you should be, if you're transacting in there and you're talking to those buyers all day long, part of the advice that you're giving your vendor is analytical, and part of it is you spend 6 hours a day on the phone with the buyers that are actually buying real estate in there, you know, and you should know the difference between a buyer spending $1 million in that suburb to the buyer spending $2.5 million in that suburb, because the deals, you know, if you draw a pyramid, the higher the price point, the lower the buyer pool. It's the same in every state, right? So I'd say get across all of it, because the trust equity that you're going to get from the vendor in that scenario is, this is how the assets perform, but this is the feedback from the buyers. John, who I spoke to this morning, said he's looking at XYZ for XYZ reason, and he hates auctions because of XYZ, and everything passes in. But you can see here on the analytics that actually reflects John's feedback. You know, the analytics are saying we're at a 27% auction clearance rate because of the price point. You know, there's not enough buyers to service urgency at auctions. So my suggestion to you is going to be buy negotiation, because in talking to the buyers, that's how they want to transact. I think I'm going to get you more money if I can just transparently negotiate over the table. It's about almost having a conversation with Mr. and Mrs. Seller in these patches and saying, guys, the conversation I'm having with you, I'm essentially having it in reverse with the buyer. So for you to have confidence in how I'm going to operate, the conversation I'm having with you and the analytics and the way that I've arrived on this value is essentially is the conversation I'm going to have with the buyer, mixed with some competition and emotion. Because the price I'm giving you is a non-emotive price, but the strategy is going to be mixed with competition and emotion. And that's where the premium's probably going to be. Laying it out there so they understand this is the base, competition and emotion, it might go up, but if it doesn't, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know within weeks 2 to 4, if we don't have an offer, we're too heavy, because you've just laid all that out. And then they've got, okay, well, it's probably going to be this because he's proven it. And if we get 2 people that like it might be 10% more, but if it's not, at least we're comfortable with this. And if we don't have an offer between weeks 2 and 4, then, you know, we're going to have to sit down with them and have a chat. That's the preface for your whole campaign. And you can't go backwards from there, because you've just been up front. You know, you've laid it out. Because you're transacting and dealing with these buyers and these campaigns, and they're also relative and consistent, it's just going to be the same every single time. You know, the vendor's going to be different, but the process is exactly the same. That answer?
Mate, you nailed that. That was pretty good.
That was pretty good, man. My last question for you, mate. You've got one of the most resilient, bulletproof, best mindsets I've ever seen.
Thanks, mate.
Was there a particular book, podcast, quote, someone that actually built that mindset into you?
Looks like it was just built on the gym. So
well, I've read all of Ryan Holiday's books. So Ego, for anyone listening, Ego is the Enemy is an awesome book. I was actually meant to come up and see him in Sydney a couple of months ago, but I missed it. So Ryan Holiday's really good. He's a modern day Stoic. So Stoicism, if you're not into Stoicism, guys, get into it.
You're bigger. You can tell.
It's everything. So Ryan Holiday's great. Jocko Willink was another book I read. Discipline is Destiny, or I can't remember. I think it was Discipline is Destiny or something like that. But I read that the year we started Hive, because that was all about being a leader. Like, he's an SAS guy. And it's just trying to, you know, sort of tool myself up and learn from the guys around, you know, like leadership and what it takes, and just having that resilience and that sort of macro perspective. And that's probably really it. I listen to you guys, like podcasts, like industry relevant specific things. Like, I'll listen to you guys in the gym just because it's relevant to my life, you know, like there's nuggets, like we all pick up nuggets from each other, and I find relevancy is really key. And, you know, just podcasts, you know, Huberman, all the standard stuff, Joe. Love Joe Rogan. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a big audio book guy. So, but yeah, mainly like hardcover, Ryan Holiday, and Stoicism for anyone that's listening in terms of perspective. If you want to learn the best way to dial in a bulletproof perspective is learn stoicism. Hands down, 100%.
Appreciate that.
Honest, Dill. Is Dill so? Do you want to ask the last question?
Hit me, Dill.
Whenever.
Big dog.
Big dog.
How look pants? Fucking.
Joshy boy.
Yes, mate.
As a leader in the industry,
Yep.
and myself obviously leading a new brand and obviously new office off the ground and looking to grow and kind of take that to the next level.
Yep.
What do you think should be the task or kind of a strategy for the next 12 to 24 months on growth?
Yep.
And where should I kind of dial in more?
Massive exposure. You've got a huge presence, awesome brand. Double, triple, quadruple down on exposure. You know, that's your strength. That's the White Fox strength. You've got awesome listings. You've got an energy that just jumps out of your skin. You need to focus on that. So, like from outward in, I'd say that's just going to attract the people that you need. You're talking about, you know, PM, property management, all that sort of thing. I'd recommend doing that if you can find the right people involved. But I think in terms of just growing the brand and growing the business, I think just doubling down and tripling down on everything you guys are already really good at. Because I know in the north, you haven't been as prevalent as you are sort of in Toorak, but the brand's obviously getting really well absorbed in there. So I'd leverage that. I'd focus on, I guess, leveraging the best asset stock that you've got. All your stock's really, really good. And just doubling down on that, I'd say. Just keeping it really, really simple. And just keeping your energy and your routine and everything down, dialed pat. We wake up at the same time. So we're always in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. And surrounding yourself and just doubling down on the people you surround yourself with. Like just soaking up everything that you can that is the White Fox brand.
Network well.
And network well, putting the right people around you.
We should have like a little WhatsApp or catch up.
Yeah. But I think the things that make you really, really good is just double down on that, because that's just in essence organically going to grow your business as it is, because the right people will just be attracted to that.
Beautiful.
That's it.
Thank you, mate.
Josh.
Both Sides Podcast.